is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this flattering introduction. Yeah, you mentioned that I already spoke about Global Orthodoxy. I remember that the first conference that you and Helen organized in Nijmegen on Global Orthodoxy, it was last year, if I remember well. I participated there with a paper in which I argued that depending on what we mean by global orthodoxy, Eastern and Oriental alike, qualifies or not as global religion. And I remember this kind of, was seen as provocative for some part of the audience. And my point was that one could speak of Orthodoxy as global to the extent that over the last century, it has experienced this worldwide spread and transnational circulation of people and of goods, religious goods. And however, I argued that this geographical dimension was not enough to qualify it as global in the sense of a more normative endorsement of globality and cultural acceptance of it. And now looking back at this, especially in light of the pandemic-related developments, I think we could say that actually Orthodoxy did embrace one of the key features of globality, namely this digital interconnectivity. And today I would like to propose some thoughts about this process of kind of rapid and almost abrupt digitalization of Orthodoxy. Well, as all technological innovations in human history that have been met with a mixture of enthusiasm about the new opportunities that they brought on the one hand, but also with resistance and rejection on the other side, because of unknown potential side effects, because of their capacity to disturb existing order. Well, the emergence of the internet since the late 90s, and then with the development of the web 2.0, with social media, smartphones, digital gadgets, and so on, that we see developing. Well, all these were no exceptions from this rule of thumb, and neither was the Orthodox churches and people's reaction to it. After initial apocalyptic discourses about the internet being the work of the evil one and the instrument of Antichrist, or a means of, I don't know, human destruction and corruption, Orthodox hierarchs, monastics, theologians, and individual lay thinkers started slowly to acknowledge the global dissemination of the virtual world and its inescapable hold on contemporary human life. They came to grips with it, with its complexity, and started engaging in a process of negotiation. Okay, how do I now move on with my, okay. So they moved from rejection to negotiation. And this process of negotiation and of engagement with the digital media have been unfolding at different paces. Geographically speaking, with North America being more advanced than Europe, for example. Also ecclesiastically speaking, there is variance among the different Orthodox national churches, but also with regard to institutional versus private-led initiatives, with individuals always taking over the institutions. But despite these different paces and rhythm, the core issue that raised problems actually were very similar. Basically, this stemmed from the perceived incompatibility of the Orthodox ethos and the church's structure, belief, and ritual system with the nature and culture of the virtual domain. We have on the one hand a religion institution with a hierarchical top-down model of authority, an internal organization based on national and ethnic criteria, a sophisticated belief system rooted in an unchallengeable dogmatic tradition, and a high range of complex rituals that involve corporeal and sensorial collective participation. We have, on the other hand, the internet, which is democratic, pluralistic, and interactive in nature, with no overarching authority, a platform for infinite multiplication of textual and visual resources, a space for free and unlimited self-expression. So, in the context of this apparent incongruity, what form do the negotiations between orthodoxy and the global digital media take? My observation is that, the Orthodox actors that are involved in tackling the issue have set the discussion in Orthodox terms, basing their reflection on Orthodox anthropology. For instance, their main question is, how can man, as a being created in the image of God, use the new technologies and digital media so as to remain faithful to his calling to achieve likeness with his creator? So in other words, the digital is discussed as a potential instrument of salvation, of deification. What are the means mobilized in order to integrate this secular, religiously neutral technological innovation into the Orthodox theological worldview? Well, first, several patriarchs and hierarchs pronounced blessings over the virtual world, ensuring to chase evil spirits and to pave the way for virtuous communication and content publication. It is also noteworthy that most institutional and private web initiatives are undertaken with the blessing of clergy or spiritual fathers, which is regarded as a source of legitimacy, authenticity, and a mark of religious safety. Second, most creators or hosts of Orthodox digital media promote the view that this should serve mission, discipleship, and the spread of the Orthodox faith. Third, the downsides of the internet, which are less and less phrased apocalyptically, but they are sort of being addressed and defined in scientific terminology with arguments from psychology and from neuroscience, are counterbalanced also with Orthodox solutions. I wrote here antidotes. Yeah. For example, the addictive consumption of internet and digital social media can be treated with the practice of fasting, which can function like a technique of digital detox. In this respect, Russian church officials and Western Orthodox theologians have suggested introducing abstinence from computer-mediated communication among the fasting rules. Another example is about self-exposure and narcissism, which can be identified and tracked through the practice of confession and treated through the cultivation of virtues such as humility and self-discipline. So yeah, all these negotiations help like taming the digital world and help integrate it in contemporary Orthodox everyday life. Let's have a look at a few examples of Orthodox digital media. And I propose to distinguish here between the way churches and institutions use it, the way individuals use it, and also what is in the middle, some, I would say community level, a kind of mezzo level. Okay, so how do churches appropriate themselves the internet? Well, if we look at the websites of European patriarchates, and I have given here the example of the Romanian and the Serbian churches, well, we can see that they function as some kind of showroom of the patriarchate, where visitors can see the institutional structure with dioceses, bishops, repertoires of parishes, monasteries, charitable work, and so on, pastoral activities, descriptions of the Orthodox faith, sacraments, and so on, but also links to the church media. So in short, these look more or less like an online reproduction of an offline reality, an offline structure. Now, if we look at some churches in America, this is quite differently, because we can notice that they have a more interactive, user-friendly, and user-centered design, and yeah, they have a more user-centered character, which is probably due to the fact that these churches exist in societies that are more advanced in the process of mediatization, but also to the fact that they have a minority mentality and very missionally driven. So here, this is the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America. Well, you see it has about, news, archbishop, but very interestingly, it has a chapel. It's a digital chapel, a virtual chapel, and it has a department of internet ministries, which consists actually of support given to parishes technical support given to parishes that want to do outreach and mission through the internet. So they provide all sorts of resources. Well, this is the OCA website, Orthodox Church in America, which looks more like a blog. It's also very user-friendly and user-centered. It's question and answers section, so it's more interactive. Okay, now if we move to the community level, I just show some examples of Orthodox media, like Orthodox Times, which has news from the Orthodox world, analysis, political analysis, analysis of social issues, and the section on spirituality and Christianity more largely. Okay. Then Pan-Orthodox Media Network, also news from all the patriarchates, translations. It's not only Christian, Eastern Orthodox churches, but also Oriental Orthodox churches, so it's Pan-Orthodox. Then in the French-speaking world, there is orthodoxy.com, which is more European-centered. There is the Orthodox Art Journal. And I don't have here a slide, but I would like to mention the Public Orthodoxy. It's a platform created by scholars at Fordham in America, and there is plenty of parts of publications of essays and analyses from an Orthodox perspective of all sorts of political, social, and cultural things that are going on currently. So, okay, this is a Saint Nina quarterly, as it is self-described here, a journal exploring the ministry of women in the Eastern Orthodox Church. So it's more, it's an initiative of women, for women, and militating for women's ordination in the Orthodox Church. Well, there is also Orthodox apps. I just picked up some, but there are many. Many calendars, old and new, daily readings, a lot of Bible studies, and apps with biblical texts, prayer books. The last one is Orthoprax. As far as I know, this is the newest one. And it's a more complex one because it presents the saints of the day with their lives, with their icon, with their troparion. Then it has all sorts of prayers. It functions as a prayer book, so as a synaxarium prayer book. It has the thought of the day, meditation of the day. It has the biblical readings of the day. It's a very complex one. Then with regards to Orthodox ritual online. Well, we have seen the Orthodox chapel before, where you can also light a candle. I don't know if you see my screen now. Do you see this link that I opened? I can hear anyone. Yes? Okay. So you see, up. You can light a candle. Yeah, make a wish. And now let me get back. Yeah, there are prayer requests, spiritual direction and confession going on, also online. And of course, video streaming of religious services, TV, radio, YouTube channels. And during the pandemic, we have seen this really expanding massively. I won't discuss this too much because I suppose this will come in the questions. Now, how do individuals use the very rich array of digital media possibilities? Well, first, there is really a lot of blogs discussing what it is to live an Orthodox way of life. You can see here, Orthodox way of life, walking the path to theosis. So there's a lot going on, a lot of discussions going on around this issue of an Orthodox everyday life, Orthodox ethos, Orthodox parenting. So many resources for children's education and parenting. Orthodox mom. There is well, most of the blogs about children rearing, about parenting, about Orthodox homemaking are done by women. So women take a lot of place in this digital world. There is also Orthodox humor, like memes, hey girl memes. I don't know if you know them. Like, hey girl, you and me Saturday night Vespers. Or wanna go for a walk? How about 3 times around the table? This is an allusion to the fact that the marriage ritual is consists of a kind of a dance around a small table. So it's like a marriage demand. Hi girl, my name is Ryan, but you can call me Barsanufius. You know, this is yeah, this is funny because it alludes to converts' preference for taking Orthodox exotic names. But this, but the fact that there is so much space for individual expression in the digital world also gives rise to new authority figures. New authority figures are emerging, and I would like to introduce here the personality of this Moldavian monk, hero monk. So he's a priest also. He's very atypical. You can see this also from the way he's dressed. Well, he rarely wears a black riasa. He's, you see, this is kind of white color. Then he wears red, blue, gray, green, like everything but black. He's a former poet. He remained a writer, actually. He publishes a lot of books. He had 3 blogs at some point, but right now I could find only one of them. He writes, he continues to write, and he's very prolific, and he made his own publishing house, which is called Catisma, where he publishes his books, his essays, but also other people's, but mainly his. And he really sells goods, and everything is sold through internet. So all the all his, I mean, not everything is sold through internet, but most of the marketing is digital marketing. He's really doing, he really got it, you know, how to. Yeah, you can see here, I gave 3 examples of his most recent books. Then have met with a huge success. He receives literary prizes also. His books were translated in French, in Italian, in I don't know what language. And 2 films were made after his 2 of his novels. And he is really very daring, and he's very atypical for a monk. He wrote a book, you see here, Carta despre femei, the book about women, and then the book about men. And he wrote this book here, Anti-Parenting. This is very interesting how the making of this book. Actually, he's very active on Facebook. He has like 25,000 followers, and and at some point he created a discussion group about parenting, and he said, well, whoever wants to join me in this discussion, you know, and there were immediately 10,000 people who joined him. Then he closed the group, and he wrote the book. Actually, this book was born and written with the people and in the course of the discussion, you know, about parenting. And they came to the conclusion that they would call this anti-parenting. And this book had a huge success. And yeah, you see, it's a very creative way in which he engages with the internet, and he uses the digital opportunities to in the process of book writing. That's really very creative, I think. And he's of course everywhere. He's on YouTube. You can find all his conferences. He's invited everywhere. He's really a kind of very well-known figure. He's very much trusted by both conservative and liberal sides of the spectrum of Romanian-speaking Orthodoxy. And he's very critical of the he's very critical of the hierarchy and of many actions of the church as institution. And he expresses this with no kind of shyness, you know. And he makes and sells at very high prices handbags. This is all handmade by him. And of course, all the publicity for this is done on his Facebook page. And he had a website where he sold them, but I haven't found it recently anymore. And he made wine as well, and he sells it. It's called the wine is the priest's wine cellar. So he really got, you know, this marketing feeling. Well, another figure, it's also a monastic, a woman this time, Sister Vasa. She also is an internet-driven figure, and her kind of yeah, authority, faith, and success comes from her YouTube channel, Coffee with Sister Vasa. She has a YouTube channel where she posts videos in which she explains various aspects of the Orthodox faith, of practice, and she's very atypical because, well, already she's female, she's an academic, and she's a monastic. She speaks English and Russian, and she does her ministry on the web. So, and she also sells things. She sells mugs like this. She sells her books, and she sells videos. Another new and atypical spiritual figure that has emerged is another monastic. She's Romanian. Her name is Siluana. And she's also very critical, like Sister Vasa. She has her distance with the church hierarchy and with the way things are done in mainstream Orthodoxy. And she combines, she has a very interesting approach, combining modern psychology with patristics. And she's also on Facebook. She has also about 20-something thousand followers. Okay, what do the Orthodox use the internet for? Well, also for selling things, as we have already seen, selling books, wine, selling one's own videos, but also monastic products. This is in France. Mount Athos, of course, which became a kind of brand. They have a very well furnished e-shop. And Orthodox fashion designers. There is Orthodox fashion. That's something new, you know. It's something that emerged. Like it's a mixture of commercial, marketing, and religion. You know. And I would just conclude very quickly with the impact that all this has on Orthodoxy. First, as we have seen previously in these economic and commercial activities, there is a process of branding. There is a niche identity emerging, an Orthodox identity, which is connected with the consumer logic that so the individual can choose, and he has to choose something that makes him authentically Orthodox. And this is very much connected, of course, to market economy, to this economic paradigm. It has, as a consequence, on religion also individualization. And here I think there is a lot to say about the transformations of the Orthodox self going on, but it's a huge discussion, so I'm not going to get into this. Then we can notice the privatization of the practice, of religious practice, mediated by the use of apps, digital worships, podcasts. In my interviews, I had people who well, yeah, my informants told me that many times, for instance, some were commuting and they said, I don't have time to do my prayers in the morning, so I just grab my train, you know, I get on my train and then I listen to the prayers on my phone. Or someone said, well, while I'm doing my housework or cooking, then I listen to some spiritual conferences or some spiritual podcasts or prayers. So the practice is getting more privatized, and it's I think it's we are at the limit here with multitasking. Then at the level of community, there are new alternative ways of making community that emerge, that are deterritorialized, that are ephemeral because they last during one session of a webinar or of a workshop, and they're based on common affinities. For instance, a workshop on Orthodox parenting. As I have shown, there is new sources of authority according to new criteria. So no longer the credentials, the theological and ecclesiastical credentials of the person, but rather the number of followers, the number of likes, the internet notoriety. And simultaneously, we can notice a challenge, but also a reaffirmation of offline ecclesiastical structure, and a challenge and reaffirmation of Orthodox traditional values. And when I say this, I think mostly of women female voices on the internet who are searching for their Orthodox identity and their Orthodox way of life, departing from some traditional patriarchal presuppositions, but on the other hand, reaffirming them. So I'll stop here for now, and there is a lot more to say, of course, but my 30 minutes are already off. So thank you for your attention.